So we're continuing on exploring CES 2020, and right now we're going to do something which I think is incredibly exciting. I'm sitting here with Richard Harenberry, the inventor of a device called the Sauna. This is a device that, full disclosure, we're going to be doing some research on in the center. I'm excited about this for a couple of reasons. This is a device that addresses both pain and sleep. Richard's been developing this device for 25 years?
28 now.
28 years. I have looked at a number of devices that are very similar to this, and I think he's cracked the code. We are dealing with a problem where about a third of Americans struggle with some kind of sleep disorder. We are dealing with a problem with pain that costs us over $600 billion a year. We've created an opioid crisis which has resulted in over 70,000 deaths in the last few years, upwards of 17,000 deaths a year. So we've got a massive problem. We have really crummy solutions. And I believe that we're on the verge of a breakthrough with real solutions for this problem that are A, non-addicting, B, not a pill, and C, actually address the fundamental problems in terms of the issues that have gone on and changes in the brain itself and neuroinflammation. So I'm extremely excited about this device, and I want Richard to tell you more about how he developed it and what we're looking at.
Well, thank you. So I had a Jeep crash in the Yemen in 1992. I was driving my Jeep down a road, and I was alongside a petrol truck, and a car pulled out from behind it, and my choices were a head-on collision next to a petrol truck or go off a bridge. And went off a bridge. The car basically down 60 foot into a dry riverbed, and it crumpled like a Coke can, and that resulted in a spinal injury from T8 to T10 and a nerve damage and a torn aorta. And all of that then resulted in a 5-year life expectancy because of the degree of nerve damage pain. I started with all the hospital standard of care, which hasn't changed in 27 years. Opioids, gabapentin, other drugs, and then the implantables, externals. And really with spinal injury pain, they're often going through the motions because they know none of it works. And the last resort is, hey, have some meditation to take the edge off, and hopefully maybe you won't commit suicide. It's kind of the ethos. But I watched a movie around about that time when I was annoyed about the lack of efficacy of everything. And the movie, because it put me into what we would now call a flow state, changed my pain levels more than morphine during the duration of the film. So I then realized that, hey, if there is something about state of consciousness, that if I could reliably change it, then I might be able to find a solution to my own pain problem. And the next port of call was to think, okay, well, clearly meditation works for some levels of pain, and clearly there is some efficacy there, otherwise they wouldn't be trying to give it to everyone. And I was like, okay, well, what if I already had the type of brain and ability that a 20-year-long meditator has? And that led me to look at some of the Western medical research into meditation, specifically around EEG patterns. And there was a guy called Maxwell Cade who wrote a book called The Awakened Mind, and he did a very large number of EEGs on very long-term meditators. And basically, for me, that was a blueprint. It was here is the patterns that your brain should be, and then I bought a device that was very similar to what he used in all of his research. So I was looking at my brain, comparing it to what his long-term meditator's brain, and so I had the roadmap of where I was and where I needed to go, and that's what led me into audiovisual neuromodulation.
So can you tell us a bit about the specifics of how you do this? There's been a lot of devices over the years that I've experimented with looking at that try and cause brain synchronization to occur. There are a lot that generate alpha waves, there are a lot that'll generate beta waves, and some that'll generate delta and theta. The challenge has always been not just generation of the waveform itself, but the synchronicity that occurs across the brain when you accomplish this. This device, this is the flow state that Richard's talking about, has actually been able to accomplish this. And this is what makes it so exciting. So can you tell us a little bit about the specifics of how you came about this?
Yeah, so I started with an off-the-shelf device that was basically pretty good at producing an alpha state. And then because I was looking at the long-term EEGs of long-term meditators, the striking factor was that all of them had perfect symmetry between the left and right-hand side of the brain. And so my next effort was, okay, well, what if I put a very large amount of light and sound in one side of the brain, the side of the brain that is less than the other? And it works temporarily with an unstable effect that doesn't last and is pretty unpleasant when you do it. I basically tried to brute force it in a particular male way. And that approach has also been tried with TMS. Because with TMS, when you're pulsing magnetic fields at someone's brain, you kind of don't have an option but to try and do it that way. And I then had a network chiropractic session, and I came out more relaxed from my network chiropractic session than I ever had done from any normal chiropractic. And for those who haven't actually come across network chiropractic, you lie in a room with like 15 other people. Someone comes along and prods you in a certain way, gently, and then goes away, and then 5 minutes later comes and prods you in a different way. And there's something about the gentle approach of the aim being how do we get you back to homeostasis that made me start thinking about that approach when it came to the brain. So I stopped all the trying to brute force it with forcing neuromodulation into the brain in a way that was not working, onto a gentle how do you alternate signals between the left and right hand side of the brain, how do you do that between audio and visual, and how do you create complex patterns that basically just acts as a metronome to the brain to, rather than forcing it, to come to the right frequencies. So if you're using transcranial magnetic stimulation or electrical stimulation, you are basically brute forcing the brain every time. There's not a gentle way of doing those two. There's some gentle things that are being done with vagal nerve stimulators, and they are producing some nice results. But generally speaking, audio-visual allows you a safe way of neuromodulation because the brain always has a capability of turning off its response. If you live under a flight path of an airport, your brain can literally stop paying attention to that noise whenever it wants to, and that gives a really nice added safety feature, which means that you can stimulate for hours and you have never got any risk of overdose.
So one of the things that is particularly unique is that most of the devices that entrain for sleep help your brain get back to a normal sleep pattern actually don't have that much effect on pain. Whereas this device actually has a profound effect in terms of management of pain. Studies looking at fibromyalgia, you've done studies, small studies looking at pain associated with MS.
That one's coming up in May.
Okay, that one's in progress. But also in other types of neuropathy, and certainly the devastating pain that you suffered as a result of nerve damage. So we've got a device here that will address both issues with chronic pain and address issues with sleep, because in fact there's a lot going on that's very similar between the two of those in the brain. The device, for all its sophistication, is actually pretty simple to use. And why don't you tell us about how to go about doing that?
Yeah, so the device use is basically, I'll give the fibromyalgia trial as an example. We had everyone use once a day without fail, and we got people to use it at night as they were going to sleep. Because if you reduce pain and you reduce anxiety right before sleep, you are improving sleep, time it takes someone to get to sleep, and the quality of sleep throughout the night, which then has a knock-on effect throughout the next day. So with a single use of 15 minutes, we were having a sort of a 24-hour effect. We also told people to use it as they needed to, whenever any of their other major symptoms, pain, fatigue, anxiety, depression, when any of those symptoms was too much for them to enjoy what they were doing, then we told them to use during the day. So at the start of the trial, we had people using an average of 5 times a day for 15 minutes each time. And again, I mean, whether you're using it at night or during the day, at night you're using it in bed, you're just putting it on, pressing play, you're seeing gentle pulses of light through your eyes that are coordinated with pulses from your of sound through your ears, usually through your own headphones. And then during the day, it's the same thing, other than the context of where you're doing it. So we're usually telling people to find an armchair or anywhere that they can rest and support their neck. And by the 6-month follow-up, everyone had maintained the majority of the benefits they had during the trial by doing a single use a day. So we had people go from above 6 out of 10 pain scale, because that was the criteria for joining the trial, to an average of between 2 and 3 at the end of 6 months.
So, in what time frame do you expect to start seeing results from use of the sauna, and when do you see the results kind of peak out, maximize?
So the start is usually the very first use. The brain seems to be doing a triage of do you need to relax, or do you need to have an increased neuroplasticity, which during that first use then isn't that relaxing, but then leaves you with an immediate improvement in how you feel the moment it's finished. The where does it peak out? That's an interesting question, because the 2 weeks of the main clinical trial in fibromyalgia, we got a 45% reduction during that 2 weeks. Then if you leave people completely on their own, with no support, no app telling them how well they're doing, nothing telling them the correlation between how often they use and their pain reduction, it peaked to that 2 weeks and then maintained over time. My feeling is that by the time we have an app and support functions that basically are telling people how exactly how the symptoms are changing when they use more or less often and use at particular times of day, that we'll continue to get more than that initial 45% increase in functionality of someone living their life. So I think we can improve on the results we've already got, but at the moment it's the first sort of 2 to 4 weeks where we're getting the majority of the benefit.
This is extremely important. We're talking about a device whose side effects include generalized relaxation, improved sleep, decreased pain. Non-addictive, something which you can dose pretty much as is comfortable for you. We'll recommend it up front. We're going to be doing it twice a day, once during the day and once at bedtime. And so I think that we're on the verge of a really significant, if not complete, breakthrough in terms of resolution of pain and sleep issues. Certainly something that's going to be a massive tool in terms of helping us reduce the need for medications, reduce the need for therapies in order to address the problems, and get you back to the life that you want to be living, out attending school, attending social functions, re-engaging with your children. This is what we're looking for, and this is what I think we'll be able to accomplish without the medications, or certainly with dramatically less medications, by incorporating sauna into the work that we're doing. Can you show us the device?
Certainly. So this is the device, and you're getting pulses of light through closed eyes. So and the only thing that the user has to do is lie back, close their eyes, and then adjust the brightness to what feels good for them at a particular time of day. Because obviously, if you're using during the middle of the day, your eyes are accustomed to bright light, and at 3 in the morning, you'll then turn it down to what would be invisible during the day. So literally, you put it on, and then we're getting sound through headphones, and we've designed it so that anybody can use their own headphones. And then we're getting data from heart rate variability on the forehead, so we know which of the sub-algorithms are creating the greatest relaxation effect for any individual. And in future we will incorporate that into a feedback loop, which will then personalize the treatment for each person.
Basically, you're going to be wearing this as a headset. You've got a headset on top of that that's plugged into that. You don't happen to have that with you, do you? So you'll show them what it looks like.
Well, it's anybody's own headphones.
Anybody's own headphones, even better. So you
These are typical Bose headphones.
put the Bose headphones on. It plugs into this device. Get comfortable. Lie down with the device on, and you're off to the race. So basically, just take my glasses off. And let me borrow your headset. So this is the whole deal. This is what it looks like. Stormtroopers, but the fact of the matter is it's easy, it's convenient to carry around, it's very comfortable, and so you can take it with you when you're traveling as well as being able to use it at home. Now, the next caveat is it's not yet available.
No,
So
we're
when do you
hoping-
expect to have it available?
We're hoping for availability in April as a wellness device, so we will be able to make claims around sleep and relaxation under a wellness claim, a consumer label from the FDA, whilst we are completing the clinical trials to then actually label it for what it is as a powerful tool. The first FDA indication will be fibromyalgia, and we're expecting to be able to use that labeling in about September, October next year, after a large-scale clinical trial at Duke. So yeah, the device won't change between those two times. It's just a question of what claims we're allowed to make as judged by the FDA.
So it's important to emphasize this is not yet FDA approved, but they're in process to do so. FDA means it's a medical device, and has passed incredibly high standards in order to be able to approve for the indication that the FDA gives it. They're in process. They're doing their homework to get this accomplished. I believe they'll accomplish that. I'm hoping the work we do will help contribute to their accomplishing that FDA approval. But getting it out on the market as soon as possible for health and wellness, I think it's a no-brainer. And I'm very excited about this device and excited to be able to tell you about it. Anything else you want to say?
No, just thank you very much indeed, and we are very much hoping that we can help as many people as possible. For us, our part in the toolkit is the part of the dealing with any pain that is being amplified by inflammation in the brain. So where the minimum we've been able to help people is around about the 10% mark, where they've got a very strong pain signal coming up from somewhere in their body, and their brain isn't really amplifying it, and we're just helping people by becoming more relaxed. A good example of that recently was someone with neck pain from cancer of bones of the neck. So where you have a specific pain signal coming out from the body, we can help a little bit. And then on the other end of the scale, it's things like fibromyalgia, where it is a disease of the brain amplifying pain. And in those circumstances, we can be a very, very big, and hopefully the biggest tool in the toolbox in solving that problem. So we're hoping to help everyone, and the degree to which we help, and whether we are a solution or just a useful tool in the toolkit will depend on the type of pain.
So stay tuned. We're hoping our study to be wrapped up within 6 months. But as soon as the device is available, we'll also be making it available on our website. Sono, potentially the future of pain management.